How cheating affects fathers in depth. In this video, we're going deeper than just the heartbreak. We're going to break down what really happens to a man's brain, body, and soul when he's betrayed by someone he trusted the most. First, we'll explore the neuroscience of betrayal trauma, how cheating affects brain chemistry, nervous system regulation, and emotional processing. Then we'll cover the role of drugs and alcohol, what substances do to the brain, why many turn to them, and how they rewire your ability to feel anything at all. We'll also dive into anxiety, depression, and PTSD, how they form, what chemicals are involved, and how you can begin to heal. We'll discuss common misdiagnoses and mental health, especially in men, and how untreated trauma often gets mislabeled as something else. Finally, we'll talk about real, holistic healing, therapy, how it truly works, medication when it's necessary, vitamins, sleep, exercise, and reconnecting with your purpose. Whether you're here because you lived it or because you love someone who has, this is the full picture. The story in-depth version. You wake up in a house you helped build brick by brick, paycheck by paycheck. Your kids' laughter echoes down the hall. You kiss your wife's forehead like always. But today, something feels off. Before the day ends, everything shatters. She cheated. Not just on you, on the story you both were writing, on the life you gave your soul to build. It's not just heartbreak. It's psychological trauma, what some call betrayal trauma. When a man experiences betrayal from a loved one, especially a spouse, the brain registers it as a threat to survival. The amygdala, located deep within the temporal lobe, acts as the brain's fear center. It goes into overdrive. This sets off the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, a stress response system that releases cortisol and adrenaline throughout the body. You enter fight or flight. But the enemy isn't external. It's inside your home. It's in your bed, and there's nowhere to run. This kind of trauma also affects the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain right behind the forehead. It's responsible for rational thinking, decision-making, and emotional regulation. If left untreated, it can shrink, impairing your ability to plan, focus, and stay grounded. Meanwhile, the hippocampus, located in the medial temporal lobe and responsible for emotional memory and learning, also deteriorates under prolonged stress. That's why some men can't think straight, forget things, or obsess over the past. Their brain has literally been hijacked. You weren't just a husband, you were the foundation, the provider. You sacrificed your own needs, dreams, sleep all to keep the family alive. Now, your sense of identity collapses. This creates a grief process, but it's not just about losing a person. It's about losing the narrative of your life. Self-blame and distorted beliefs. You ask yourself, was I blind? Was I boring? The brain searches for meaning because it needs to resolve the pain. This often leads to shame and self-blame, activating the anterior cingulate cortex, which lies in the frontal midline of the brain. This area is involved in processing social pain and rejection. In fact, it's the same region that lights up during physical pain. In other words, betrayal hurts as much as a broken bone, functioning through collapse. But you can't fully break. You have a child, so you fake it. This emotional suppression leads to emotional dysregulation, where your autonomic nervous system gets stuck in survival mode. You swing between sympathetic overdrive anger, hypervigilance, and parasympathetic shutdown numbness, apathy. This creates what's known as a trauma response cycle, childhood trauma reawakened. If you've experienced childhood trauma or abandonment, betrayal can reactivate those wounds. Your brain doesn't just process the current event, it overlays it with every time you felt unworthy, unseen, or abandoned. That's why the pain feels deeper than the moment. The descent into coping mechanisms. Some men turn to alcohol, a central nervous system depressant. It initially numbs the pain but lowers serotonin and dopamine levels over time, worsening depression and anxiety. Some turn to marijuana, which overstimulates dopamine receptors in the brain's reward system. At first, it brings relief, but chronic use leads to dopamine downregulation. Your brain adjusts by reducing dopamine sensitivity. You smoke to feel normal. You stop, and you feel nothing. Some turn to stimulants like cocaine or methamphetamine, which flood the brain with dopamine and norepinephrine. You feel alive for a while, but the crash is devastating. Long-term use damages the dopaminergic system, leading to anhedonia, the inability to feel pleasure. Misdiagnosis and mental health system failures. Many men get diagnosed with bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, or schizophrenia during episodes of trauma-induced collapse. But what often gets missed is complex PTSD, or an acute stress response often stemming from sleep deprivation, substance use, and emotional isolation. You were grieving, you hadn't slept, you were using, but the system doesn't ask why. It just medicates the what, the dark place, suicidal thoughts. When the brain endures prolonged stress, the serotonin system becomes disrupted. Suicidal ideation isn't always about wanting to die. It's about not wanting to feel anymore. It's about emotional overload and a collapsed nervous system. A man doesn't want to vanish. He just wants the pain to vanish. The survival mask. Some men go to the gym. Some race cars at night. Some become hyper-successful. But it's all armor. Their default mode network, the part of the brain involved in self-reflection and internal dialogue, is overactive. Their body is still in survival mode. They're trying to outrun an emotion that can't be outlifted or outturned, the long road to healing. So, what heals? Therapy. Real therapy doesn't just let you vent. It restructures the brain. Modalities like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, help reframe negative thought patterns. EMDR, movement desensitization and reprocessing, helps reprocess traumatic memories stored in the limbic system. Vitamins, deficiencies in vitamin D, vitamin B12, magnesium, zinc, and omega-3 fatty acids are strongly linked to mood disorders. Supplementation helps restore brain chemistry and emotional resilience. Sleep restores the glymphatic system, the brain's waste-clearing network. Trauma disrupts REM sleep, the stage crucial for emotional memory processing. Sleep hygiene, like avoiding screens before bed, consistent sleep hours, or using melatonin, is vital. Exercise. Movement releases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that helps neurons heal and form new connections. It also boosts endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin, all essential for mental health. Medication, when necessary, SSRI or SNRI medications can help stabilize serotonin and norepinephrine levels. Mood stabilizers may help regulate emotional swings, but meds should support healing, not mask it. Faith and meaning, connecting to a higher power, a larger purpose, or even a vision of your future, activates the prefrontal cortex, helping regulate emotions and restore your sense of direction. Community. Healing happens in connection. Group therapy, men's circles, or even one honest friendship can restore oxytocin, the bonding hormone that counteracts stress hormones like cortisol. If your world collapsed and you're still breathing, you're already stronger than you know. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're a man who loved deeply. And even though someone didn't protect that love, you still have the power to protect what's left of you. Don't become what hurt you. Become the man your child will look up to and say, "That's what healing looks like. That's what strength is." Your pain is real. Your story matters. And your healing is possible. Follow me, subscribe, and let's rebuild together.